passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal. He scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
Welcome back to College Hockey Today. A day late, maybe even a dollar short, but he is Brad Schlossman with the Grand Forks Herald. I am Jason Hadjdu with College Hockey Inc. Recapping the Frozen Four. The Denver Pioneers finally get the monkey off their backs and win their first national title since 2024. Schloss, just quick and dirty reaction to the Frozen. We'll get into some in-depth storylines and Vegas as a host a little bit later, but your overall takeaways from that Frozen Four.
Good games, good goaltending. The Johnny Hicks became the big story. I thought it's fascinating how Denver finds a way to kind of survive these games, because Michigan was the better team in the semifinal. Wisconsin was the better. Denver had 5 shots on goal through 2 periods.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way I thought Denver was able to keep it a 1-goal game. That was a big difference between the North Dakota game. Wisconsin got the second goal in the North Dakota game. And while North Dakota was much better in the second and third periods and even that game out, it was a 2-goal margin. And North Dakota did eventually get that 1 goal. So the 2 goals were necessary. The big thing was Wisco could not extend that lead when they were really dominating that game, and Denver found a way to bend but not break. And it feels like the Pioneers have done that a few times. I went back and looked at expected goals in Denver's last 5 Frozen Four games. They've been outshot and had expected goals disadvantages, but they have found a way for their goaltenders to turn into Martin Brodeur in March and April, time after time again. And they did it again.
Something to be said for, experience matters. And we've cited in the past your list of, the lack of first-round draft picks on eventual national champions. And experience does matter. And Denver's leadership core has been through these things. They know not to panic. They know how to handle adversity, and they know how to play from behind in big games, which not a lot of teams have that formula. So I think just reinforced again that it's great to have blue chip high draft picks, but you also need 3 and 4 year veterans who've been through the college hockey wars.
It certainly has helped. That there's no doubt about it. And this was a Denver team, like we said, they were on the ropes both of these games and found a way to hang in there and score goals when they needed to. I expected goals in the Michigan game, 6.55 for Michigan, 2.56 for Denver. That is one of the more skewed ones you'll see for a team that won the game. The Wisconsin game, it was 3.24 to 1.57. So shots on goal, Michigan 26 shot advantage. Wisconsin had a 16 shot advantage. That was the record for fewest shots on goal. Tied the record, fewest shots on goal in the national title game for Denver with 15. That tied Minnesota against Quinnipiac a couple years ago. And they just found a way. That's
They don't compound mistakes either when things aren't going well. Yeah. They don't take penalties. They don't take frustration penalties. They don't take penalties because their feet aren't moving, what have you. They don't stack problems.
Correct. I think that's a really good point. And they're able to, sometimes I feel like they do a good job of keeping some chances to the outside a little bit more. But still, expected goals tells you that their goaltending their goaltenders played extremely well in these games. And it's the crazy part. It's been different guys all the time. And it's guys that, Johnny Hicks did not start a game until January. Matt Davis did not come in as like, oh my goodness, Denver's got Matt Davis in net. He went through some ups and downs. He was hurt a little bit. He came through in the end. And, Magnus Corona had a little bit more pedigree, being a draft pick when he came in and did it for them. Tanner Gillette, he won one of their titles, but these are guys that they have their goalies peaking at the right time. And they've gotten some timely offense as well.
So Johnny Hicks goes undefeated, sets an NCAA single season record for save percentage, Frozen Four most outstanding player. This was a Tennessee State recruit a year or two ago, which is another whole sliding doors moment. But do you recall another story like this in your 20 years? Like I remember the year North Dakota won in 97, Aaron Schweitzer was a 17-year-old freshman who came out of nowhere, really, honestly. Different era, mind you. But I racked my brain and I can't think of a similar story to Johnny Hicks.
I mean, that might be it. I mean, Aaron Schweitzer came out of Sask Midgets at 17. He didn't even play junior hockey. That might be the closest thing I can think of. I'm sure there's some fans listening that might have something else that pops in their mind. I can think of some underdog team stories, like that Yale team that won the tournament as the 4 seed going through Minnesota and North Dakota in the regional. And I think Yale just had a terrible conference tournament. I guess there's another thing, Denver obviously came in really hot. Wisconsin came into the tournament leaking oil a little bit, and it didn't really matter. So I don't really know what to think of. Is there something to having lots of momentum going into the tournament? Is there not? Because Wisconsin was great in the tournament. That was the best hockey they played all year.
Yep.
So, it was interesting the way that played out. The other thing, Denver wins the double overtime game, which extends our streak of, if you're going to win a national title game, you're going to have to win an overtime game. Pretty much every team since 2017 that's won the title has had to win an overtime game. Some of them have had to win 2.
And you might need an overtime goal from a player who had 1 goal all season.
Yes. Yeah, I could not believe that too. When he scored, it was like Kent Anderson, but it was he's a guy that's a stay-at-home D-man. He made a really smart pinch on that play. He saw the forward drift over to the other side, jumped right in the play. Obviously, a phenomenal pass by Epperson. But, Kent Anderson showing great offensive instincts to jump in that hole when he saw it there.
David Carle now 3 rings already. He's still not even close to being 40 years old. I'm closer to 50 than he is to 40. That rankles. But I don't even want to get into the whole NHL angle. That's tired to me. He's made his intentions clear multiple times. We don't need to get into that. But if you want to talk in terms of legacy and David Carle's place already in college hockey, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the number of college hockey coaches that have won multiple national titles. I'm not even talking 3, just 2. And you list those names off, and it's in a really impressive list of names. You get up.
And how many of those names are in an era where there was limited player movement? And that's just another notch for David Carle.
For sure. And so he's certainly etched his name into that conversation. I also think, one thing that's someone brought up to me that's kind of interesting. We make a lot about his age, and rightfully so. But the reason why it's not that he's an inexperienced coach. He just never played pro hockey because of his health condition that didn't allow him to. Some of those guys, I guess, get some experience playing pro hockey and being around different coaches and things like that. But he just jumped into his coaching career so much younger. So it's not like he had he has this inexperience in coaching. He was a student assistant at Denver. He coached in the USHL. He was a college assistant before he was a head coach. Like, he had a lot of experience. The reason his age is young is because he didn't play pro hockey. So he was not like some completely green coach who didn't, jumping into the deep end. He had plenty of experience when he started.
We should talk a little bit about the semifinals as well, and the other teams. You mentioned it was 3 compelling games, and they were all 1-goal games for the first time, I think, in about 7 or 8 years, if I remember correctly. All 3 were decided by 1 goal. I thought Wisconsin, both games were just absolutely connected, playing connected hockey, on their toes, pushing the pace. Daniel Hauser was out. All 4 goalies were outstanding in this tournament.
Sure.
All 4 freshmen. And so I don't really have a starting point here other than to say 3 really good games that could have swung either way.
Yeah, I agree. All 4 goalies I was really impressed with. I thought in the first semifinal game, Hauser played great. And you know what? Like, I think it goes you forget about it, but that first 5 minutes, North Dakota had 2 like golden grade A chances right there. North Dakota scores that, the game might be different. And Daniel Hauser really came up big in those moments. And then Wisconsin was able to turn it then the last 15 minutes of that first period and really, and they were able to break through. That was the other thing. Wisconsin was really making it hard for North Dakota to break out the puck. And you're sitting there watching thinking, if North Dakota can get this to the intermission, they can reset. And it was really key for North Dakota did not capitalize the first 5 minutes. Wisconsin was able to break through before North Dakota's able to reset between periods. And I thought that was a big portion of the game right there. I did think Jan Spunar played great for North Dakota as well.
Great.
But yeah, that was a big part of the game, and North Dakota just had a tough time breaking out the puck. And then the big difference in the other game was that Wisconsin didn't get that second goal. They were all over Denver for 40 minutes and could not extend the lead. Denver settled in. It just, that was the difference. I just thought Wisconsin's the way that they created problems for both North Dakota and Denver, advancing pucks was, definitely something that raises your eyebrows a little bit. And then Michigan, again, I don't think the Wolverines can, there's much to be upset about other than they didn't finish a couple more chances. I thought they played a very good game. I don't know if there's anything, if you're looking at that game, what do you do differently if you're Michigan? I'm like, that's what you want to do. That's how you want to play a game.
Outshot them 2-1. 5-3 to watch, I think, from an entertainment value standpoint.
Yeah, I was able to get my stories in, and I can go watch the end of this game here, and I got to watch a lot more than I was expecting to. Myself and Todd Miloweski went and found a couple of empty seats and really enjoyed sitting in the stands instead of the press box for a game. Watching that once, like you said, it was a fun game to watch. A lot of scoring chances. Yeah, Denver had its share too. I thought Jack Ivankovic played really well, in that game. So, yeah, great games to watch. A fun Frozen Four.
Not an empty seat in the house for the final either. Really great environment.
Great environment.
So let's get into that. Let's talk about Las Vegas. With the caveat that it's an expensive destination for fans. Your thoughts on Las Vegas and T-Mobile as a host?
Yeah, I thought it has to go back. It was just such a great spot. And one of the things I love about it, the arena's right there on the Strip. And of course, as you know, for Vegas, there's hotel after hotel on the Strip. And even behind the Strip, if you want a cheaper option, like a block off, right? it's just very easy to stay within walking distance, and everything's kind of walkable in that little area there. So it was just fun there's a plaza right outside the arena, if you haven't been, where they can host, events and have the Frozen Four pregame.
Random Bruno Mars concerts.
Yeah. Yeah. Bruno Mars showed up on Friday. So it's great. I've been to Frozen Fours where there's just no hotels around the arena and you need to find a way to get there. And it's not always the easiest setup. I thought the setup was great. I thought the arena was super nice. Obviously I don't have a fan's perspective because I'm up in the press box, which was wonderful, by the way. I've been to press boxes that aren't as great. That one is massive. They got little cubbies behind there for your bag that you can throw.
That was an outstanding touch. I love that.
You can keep your bag out of the way. You can walk behind
little things.
Yeah, it was great. There's an elevator right there that goes down. We're probably boring people with what it's like for press, but the press room was actually outdoors. There's a tent outside the arena, and that's where they do it, I'm told, for all their other big events. So it's
a little gusty at times, but it was climate controlled, thankfully.
Yeah, it was nice. A great arena. They have the bells and whistles inside the arena. I loved how they hung the national title banners on the end with like the Vegas skyline behind it. That was way cooler than some of the other Frozen Fours where they hang those. I just, that was definitely one of my favorites. I was thinking, I love Tampa. I loved Vegas. The other one I really loved in 2009, I really liked Washington, D.C. And that's one I
didn't get to. Yeah.
So I'm actually looking forward to next year's. I think that'll be a great destination. But I think Vegas needs to be on the regular. There's just also something about being able to walk over to the arena in shorts. You just can't do that too often. I think I've done that twice in my 21 years, and it's Vegas and Tampa. So I couldn't say enough good things about it.
Washington, D.C. next year, Chicago in 28. And it sounded like we'll hear the next cycle announced within the next 6 months or so. Before we move on to awards talk, I'll give a shout out to Phil Pierce and his NCAA crew and volunteers, and Eric Martinson, our guy Marty at North Dakota. They always do an outstanding job hosting tournaments. That's what he does. That's what he loves. And they nailed it again. So congratulations to all of those folks involved. Awards. Let's talk about three of them at least. Max Plante winning the Hobie, Trey Augustine, the Mike Richter Award, and Ethan Wittenbach, the Rookie of the Year, the National Rookie of the Year. Probably the least surprising of the three, maybe, but your thoughts on those three awards in particular?
Yeah, I mean, Max Plante for Hobie, I have a vote. That was my vote. There were a lot of really good players, as there always are, but for me, watching these guys, he was the guy, like, if you're an opponent, you're just scared every time he has the puck. He makes little plays all over the ice to find time and space. He finds his line mates. He always knows the next play. He can shoot it. He can pass it. I felt like every shift he makes something happen. Eric Polkamp is obviously a fantastic two-way player. He's not just an offensive guy that bombs pucks. He can defend. He can be physical. But I just felt like Max Plante, it was like every shift that there just is, everyone went into the games knowing if you shut down the Plante line, you're going to beat Duluth. The Bulldogs did not have much depth scoring this year, and nobody could do it. Everyone knew what they needed to do, and nobody could do it almost. And I know Jason Shogabay and Zam Plante are outstanding players, and Zam had a fantastic into the season. But Max is the guy that's different. I keep saying he's an NHL player that's playing college hockey. Oh, and guess what? He's coming back next year, by the way.
Yes, we get treated to a returning Hobie winner. That doesn't happen. Now, Isaac Howard was planning to return last year as well. So there is still some time here where things can change. But as of now, it sounds like the Hobie Baker winner will return next season.
Different situation. I think Isaac Howard, when Isaac Howard said he was coming back, I also, in the back of my mind, was, let's see if he gets traded.
Yeah.
And when he got traded, it was like, okay, Max Plante is coming back, not to get traded, not for whatever. And the one thing that Minnesota Duluth fans should be very thankful for is that there's a guy named Victor Plante. Because if there is not a Victor Plante, there is no Max Plante next year. He would be signing with Detroit, I feel. But the third Plante brother is on the way to Duluth next year. And I think Max realizes this is just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All three brothers get to play for the team they grew up cheering for. Max posted on Instagram pictures of them as little kids in their Bulldog jerseys. And, this is just a really unique opportunity that he decided to take advantage of. And so I do not think there's any question that he legitimately is coming back. So
one more, this is anecdotal, but one more thing that speaks to the quality of the season he had is it didn't feel like I saw this year nearly the levels of anger about who won the Hobie Baker.
Yeah,
typically there's a huge outcry, and some of that is natural and it's going to happen anyway, but I didn't see that this year, which tells me the national fan base thought, yeah, absolutely deserving winner.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if people saw the game against Michigan, and it was like they saw what I saw all year long, where it was like every time he's on the ice,
terrifying.
Michigan had to be holding its, and that's a really, really, really good Michigan team. And even they had no answers for Max Plante. Like the last half of that game, it was every time he was out there, like things were happening. He's one of the, we had this discussion in the middle of the year, like NCHC's been around for like 13 years. We were like, where does he rank? Have we seen a better player than Max Plante in the NCHC era? There was a good debate about it. There's some very good players that came through. There's some different players, like obviously Perunovic, he's much different. He was really dominant as a D. Obviously Besser was a unbelievable goal scorer, but
maybe a Henrik Borgstrom as a college player, he comes to mind.
I still think I would take Plante over Borgstrom.
Yeah.
He was, Shane Pinto was really, really good all around, but Max was just like every shift, things are happening.
Yeah, there's a relentlessness about him too, in terms of his ethic.
He makes it look so easy.
His work ethic.
Yeah. It just felt like it's not like, if you watch it, it's not like it feels like he's running around and he just, it's so easy for him. It looks like it's so natural. Like almost like Nick Schmaltz, right? Like Nick Schmaltz makes things look really easy. And that's the way I feel like with Max Plante, he just makes plays. It's little plays all the time. So.
Well, let's talk about the other two big awards. Trey Augustine wins the Richter. I know that was a tough call for folks. And Ethan Wittenbach, Quinnipiac, leading the nation in scoring as a rookie. He wins Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, the toughest call had to be Richter, right? Like, Hrabel had just an incredible end to the year. There were a lot of really good goalies in college hockey this year. I certainly would not have any argument with Trey Augustine winning it. I wouldn't have had an argument with Michael Hrabel winning it either. Like, it's, that one, whoever popped up on the list, I was going to say, fine, great, very deserving. In other years, both of those guys probably would have won. It was just a year with a couple elite goaltenders, and you almost wish you could have given away two of them this year. And even you got guys like Josh Kotai out there who had an amazing year. But yeah, I think it probably came down to Hrabel and Augustine. Augustine, very deserving winner there. Ethan Wittenbach, fascinating winner there, especially with all the big names. You had Gavin McKenna, you had Porter Martone, and Cole Reshney, and these first round picks who came down, who all lived up to their billing. I thought McKenna, Martone, McQueen, Reshney, all of those guys were great this year, right? It just so happened that Jackson Smith had a really good year. Just so happened that Wittenbach piled up all those points, and he had a very impressive year for Quinnipiac, and hard to ignore point totals that he put up.
Some coaching news before we move on to your favorite, the transfer portal. St. Cloud State hired Nick Oliver as their head coach. Seemed like that one was in the works for a while. I can't imagine you were very surprised by that choice.
No, I think they had some good candidates, but he had to be their number one choice from the start. And just a great pull for Wisconsin. I can't imagine them landing any better than that. A former captain, a guy who's won. He was an assistant at St. Cloud. He went to Fargo. His teams in Fargo were great. He goes to Wisconsin. He just coached in the national title game. I mean, what a pedigree. Just
son of a coach.
Yeah, he is. Son of Scott Oliver, who's a hockey and football coach. But Nick is a really, really sharp guy. And just a good guy too. I think he's going to be a guy that can recruit really well. If you've ever met him, he's just a sharp, personable guy. And I think that lends to getting recruits. And he does have his work cut out for him there. He is not stepping into a situation where he has a team he's going to be able to walk to the NCAA tournament next year. Like, he has work cut out for him. But I think if you're St. Cloud State, you feel really good about that guy leading the charge going forward.
With St. Cloud State filled, unless I'm mistaken, that just leaves Yale and Alaska Anchorage. Haven't heard anything on either of those, so perhaps by our next episode we'll have more news there. But let's finish where you've been living for the better part of, all of this week, in the transfer portal. Monday was nuts. Monday was absolutely insane. It's tapered off since then. What have you made of the transfer portal zaniness so far?
Yeah, they backed it up a couple weeks, and I think what happened was it opened the Monday after the Frozen Four, which makes sense, but also that means 59 of 63 teams have been done for 2 weeks by the time it opened, and they're already working on next year, right? And then the teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament, you have like 45 teams that have been done for 3 weeks to a month. Like, they're ready to turn the page and move on. And a lot of these players in the past, maybe they go through their decision process as the portal's opening up because their season just ends, a couple days before it opens, and then they go through it. These players already went through their decision process. They already knew they were going in by the time it opened. And so the first day we had over 200 entries, and then it has slowed to almost a trickle since then. So it is a lot different than past years. A lot of guys already committed, a crazy number of guys committed already. When you're looking through rosters on the ones that jump out, obviously Minnesota's remaking its back end. I felt the Gophers needed to get better there. That was one of the reasons that they struggled this year. Obviously, Brett Larson felt the same, going and adding Evan Murfin, Loftus, and Tanner Henricks. I thought there have been some interesting, Lake Superior States getting Charles Savoy and Casper Nossens, caught my attention. Minnesota State needed to go get some D-men. They go and get Will Stahan and Sam Court. I thought New Hampshire's had an interesting portal season.
Say that, yeah.
Rasmus Svartstrom's a big power forward, a Finn. Ryan Johnson is a point producer at Anchorage. Going out and getting a couple goaltenders, I think will help them. D-men have been kind of like gold in the portal. Everyone needs a defenseman. If you're a defenseman,
like NHL free agent frenzy. It's just like July 1.
Correct. Those guys are. A lot of those guys were heavily recruited, and the D-men went out of the portal pretty quick. A lot of the top ones. So that's been some of my other takeaways. And yeah, it just, the other thing is with the portal and the CHL, teams just are able to address deficiencies like they haven't in the past. And I feel that's why, I'm starting to look at some of these teams and fill in rosters for next year. I'm like, oh my goodness, there are a lot of really, really good teams right now on paper. Mm-hmm. And that's because, in the past, if you miss on a class of defensemen, you're in trouble. You have a bunch of guys leave, Minnesota State's top D are graduated. Now you better have a really good class. But if you don't, now you can go find an older guy and filter that guy in, and it just makes every team more complete. And man, there's going to be a lot of really good teams again next year. That's what it's shaping up to me to be, is that a lot of teams are. You're going into the off season and you're penciling in certain teams ooh, they're going to struggle in this area next year, and then poof, all of a sudden they address it through the transfer portal, and you're back. They're able to keep going.
It's a new world. It's probably here to stay, at least for a little bit, given how things have played out legally in cases involving the NCAA. It's I'm of two minds. I'm very much pro player movement. Absolutely, 100%. The fan in me still also misses watching players go from underused freshmen and sophomores, break out at that same school as juniors and seniors, and grow along with their class and break out at the same school they arrived. I think it's okay. Both of those things can be true, and that's okay as a fan of college hockey. But this is the new world. We're all going to have to get used to it. And it sounds like Portal Day is going to be your July 1 going forward here.
Yeah. No. If I try to do my best to keep my portal tracker at grandforksherald.com/UND hockey. On the very top, it says transfer board. Click on that. I do my best to stay up on that. You can see all the player movement going on.
Have you been refreshing while we've been recording today?
Yes. So I actually have I have a way into the portal. And so I have refreshed it a couple times as we've been chatting, just to see if anyone has gone in. They have not since we started. So if this was Monday, that would have been a different story, but I could barely keep up Monday.
We'll never record on Frozen 4 Monday, I promise.
We will not record on Portal Day, but we can record shortly after that. Yes. One other thing, but one thing that I have refreshed since we've started talking is the NHL Central Scouting Bureau has come out with its final draft rankings.
Yeah.
If you look at the North American, and this is one of the impacts of the CHL players being available, is the number of guys in the top of the draft that are college guys or college bound is just going to keep increasing. And right now I look at this list, Gavin McKenna's number 1. He obviously played at Penn State this year. Number 2, Chase Reed. He is going to Michigan State next year. Number 3, we have Carson Carles. He is currently uncommitted. Number 4, Keaton Verhoff played at North Dakota this year. Number 5, Daxon Rudolph uncommitted. 6 is Caleb Malhotra, BU. 7, Tynan Lawrence, BU. 8, Nikita Klepov, Michigan State. 9, Ethan Belchetz, not committed. 10, Ilya Morozov from Miami. He played there, had a great freshman year. He's at 10. Number 11, Oscar Hemming came down midseason to BC. Number 12 is JP Hurlbert. He'll be at Michigan next year. 13 is Wyatt Cullen. He will be at Minnesota next year. So, I mean, Jason, I know you go to the drafts and you keep up with all the college prospects. You're going to need an assistant to help you do all the graphics here because
locked and loaded. Yep, we have already confirmed one for this year for the first time. We'll have a second pair of hands to help with all of that.
Yeah. It is going to be chaos with all the college guys. It should be really fun for college hockey fans, though. This just talks about all the talent that's coming down. It's a new era, and if you're a college hockey fan, I in my 21 years of covering college hockey, I don't know if there's been a more exciting time for NCAA. I know it's crazy with some of the player movement, and a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of transfers out there. I also think some people are just getting used to that's the way it is. Like I've talked to some coaches, and 3 years ago they were really mad. Now I think they're just kind of resigned that guys are leaving and they're just adjusting to it. So it is a new world. I understand there are coaches that are upset, but a lot of coaches are just, that's the world we live in today. I think, obviously a lot of players from some of the conferences with non-traditional powerhouse traditional powerhouses in the league, they're losing players to leagues that are the traditional powerhouses. But I will say this was the best year of the CCHA in the last 13 years. Like these teams, I think that's been lost in it. This was the best. When's the last time the ECAC had that many teams in the tournament? And they almost had Princeton in too. So I know we're making a big deal of there's a lot of is this just going to be the big money schools? It's a legitimate concern, and I understand where it's coming from, and I do think that's something to keep an eye on. I didn't see that this year. I saw the CCHA being as competitive as it's been. Honestly, nobody wanted to play Minnesota State first round. Nobody wanted to play Augustana if Augie got in the tournament first round. Nobody would have wanted to play St. Thomas first round. Those are pretty good teams. So,
yeah, one of the things that's gotten lost in the shuffle, we talk about this a lot internally at College Hockey Inc., is there's so much focus on that upper 1% or the upper tier of players. But what's missed is the opening of the CHL is now extending the prospect shelf life for so many players. If you age out of juniors now, you have another option beyond ECHL. Do I go overseas? Do I hang them up? Now you can go to college hockey. Suddenly the perception is you're still a prospect, a pro hockey prospect. You can get better. You can land a better situation for yourself post-college. So I think we as an organization need to focus on that more as well, instead of just all of the blue chippers. But to your earlier point, I talked to one coach in Las Vegas, a college coach, and he said, given all the, there's been so much change in the last year and a half thrown at them. They're at the point now, their mindset is tell us what the rules are today and we will adapt and we'll go forward. So for what that's worth.
Yeah. You know what? This reminds me, I need to get out my annual tweet of Frozen 4 most outstanding players. Johnny Hicks, undrafted. Owen Michaels, undrafted. Matt Davis, undrafted. Jacob Quillen, undrafted. Michael Benning, 4th rounder, I believe. Bobby Trevino, undrafted. Parker Mackay, undrafted. Carson Kuhlman, undrafted. Jared Lucas-Savages, undrafted. Drake Kajula, undrafted.
That's insane. That's awesome.
That's so when we say we put a lot of attention on the top prospects, rightfully so. A lot of them are winning Hobies and stuff. There's a lot of unbelievable college hockey players that are undrafted and they keep winning the MVP award. And it happened again this year.
I did. Great note to leave it at. Other than the portal, what are you working on these days before I let you go?
Do I have time to work on anything else?
Right.
It's news time for college hockey. It's guys signing pro deals. There's been a lot of them that have signed pro deals. It's guys returning. That's been another big story this year. I mean, we're seeing, as of right now, Michael Hage is returning to Michigan at the moment. Cole Reshny is coming back to North Dakota. Max Plante is coming back. Ethan Wittenbach's going back to Quinnipiac. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of players here, but that's been something that has kind of raised my eyebrows too. I'm like, man, a lot of guys are coming back right now next year. It's going to be
we track this, and early departures are down as we sit here today from last year.
Yeah, that tracks right now. So a lot of good players coming back. There could be coaching news, player movement news, kind of working on that right now. And then shortly, I will get into previewing the Florida meetings, the annual meetings. What are the coaches going to talk about? What rules changes might we see? What are they going to push for? What needs to happen for rules changes to occur? And maybe we can get into some of that on a future podcast once I have time to sit down and actually go through all of these issues that are going to be talked about down in Florida in a couple of weeks. So yeah, the off season turns over really quickly. I'll be watching some of the NHL playoffs that are coming up. I'm currently watching some junior playoffs. The USHL has gone through its first round. The CHL team leagues are in their playoffs as well. So it's always this is kind of the work I start on when I'm ranked the incoming recruits in the fall. I got to watch them first. And pretty soon we're going to have the World Under-18 tournament coming up over in Slovakia. A very unique part about that, we've got 3 current college hockey players playing in that. That we just never see. And Keaton Verhoff, Adam Valentini, and Tynan Lawrence are all going to play for Team Canada at that tournament. Very unique situation there. So, yeah, lots of hockey to follow, even though college is done. So that's what I'm doing.
No rest for the weary. For our listeners, we will no longer be going weekly with these episodes. We will do our draft preview. We know that for sure. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of at a as-needed basis. If news drops, we'll do a pod. We could probably do one after Florida if anything notable comes out of that. But otherwise, the weeklies will go on hold for a couple of months. All right, man. Thanks for doing the Schloss. Appreciate it.